Hold on. Chihuahua. All right. So we're talking about the top 4 mistakes that lifters make when they're prepping for their first meet. So number one is going to be just not reading the rule book. So there's a lot of new rules that have come up in the last 10 years, 15 years of powerlifting, everything from specific brands of equipment that are allowed or not allowed, as well as bench arches now as well, or I should say bench range of motion. Um, let's not get into that. And then obviously the basic rules, understanding proper range of motion, procedures, commands. Read the rule book, read it twice, make sure you understand everything, because at the end of the day, the only person you're going to cheat is yourself. And if you think that spending an hour reading a rule book is a waste of time, try spending money to go to a meet, driving for an hour each way, then showing up for a full day and doing a full training cycle to get there and bombing out because you couldn't be bothered to read a rule book. So, number one, read the rule book. Second mistake I see lifters make when they're prepping for their first meet is worrying about being too competitive, particularly when they're trying to cut weight to get into the next weight class. I'm going to be honest with you, most lifters that I see doing this, it's pretty comical. They'll be cutting weight for like as a male, right? For a sub 1,000 pound total, in a weight class that's above 150 pounds. Um, you are not going to podium if you're one weight class down or if you're the same weight class you're at right now. Realistically, right? There's going to be exceptions to this, and you'll know who you are. And if you've looked at meet results and you're out totaling everybody at these meets by 10%, go cut weight, be my guest. But barring that, don't waste your time cutting weight for a meet. It's your first meet. You've got so many variables going on, and cutting weight is adding one more stressor to that situation. Just go do the meet, get used to the process, and then once you're actually competitive, where you're looking at a podium or you're looking at some state or national records, then go look at cutting a weight class. It's time and a place for all this stuff, right? Third thing that I see lifters do wrong on their first meet day is opening too heavy. Now, this is a pretty common one that I see even more advanced athletes do, where they'll take a gamble. And this, I'd say opening too heavy can go with a couple things, right? So, as a good rule of thumb, your opener should be a weight that you can do on a bad day with a cold for a triple. Most lifters, this is like 88, 90%, depending on the lift. And nobody really remembers what your opener is unless you miss, if I'm being perfectly honest. I've never once seen a lifter pull some huge third and thought to myself, man, they opened way too light. I'm just not impressed with that performance, right? Your first lift, that opener, is intended to get just sort of your token lift and build the total, make sure that you're in for the lift and make sure you don't bomb out. Opening with a weight where you're kind of nervous about it, or especially in a first meet where there's so many nerves going on in the first place, trying to open with a PR because you want to start strong or something else. It's pretty ill-informed, and more often than not, when I see lifters trying to open too heavy, they just kill their total, because what will happen is one of a couple things. Either one, it's just full-on too heavy for them, and they'll miss, and then they miss again, they got 3 misses in a row, and they bomb out. Or they'll open at a weight that's kind of heavy, but then their nerves will get the best of them because it's still a weight they have to think about, and they'll miss. Let's say they squat 2 inches high or something, right? Just got nervous, cut depth. And they'll say, oh, I've got that weight, I've got it, no problem. And then they'll end up going up in weight. And statistically speaking, the majority of lifters, regardless of what the reason is, the majority of lifters that go up in weight after a miss that next attempt. So on the topic of openers, make sure that you actually make the lift before you go up, especially for a first meet. If you're trying to build some huge total or something, there's probably still somebody stronger than you if it's your first meet. So don't waste the effort. Focus on having a successful meet. Go 8 for 9 or 9 for 9. And then the last thing, number 4, I think this is probably one of the best things you can do for prepping for your first meet, is getting a handler, right? So not everybody's going to be in a position or going to need to hire a coach. That's going to deal with your process for getting to the process of getting stronger and getting you to the meet. But a program doesn't really have too much to do with meet day. Meet day is really about testing the results of the program. The catch is that there's a lot of things going on in a powerlifting meet. You've got everything from weigh-ins and equipment check to timing your warm-ups in accordance with how the flights before you were going, making sure that you're hydrated well, staying on top of your food, making good attempt selection as you go, and even how to pivot if there's like a technical difficulty and the meet gets pushed back 10 minutes at the end of a flight before you go into yours and then the warm-ups get all thrown off. Having a meet day handler, so this could either be your coach, right, if they're experienced in powerlifting, or simply a friend who's done several competitions and has done them successfully and knows what they're doing. Picking a good handler is, I can't even stress how much more enjoyable it makes competitions. I think the worst end of that that I've done is I've coached on a day. I've coached, I think, 3 athletes at a competition and then lifted myself all in one day, and it was a terrible time. I didn't hit a lot of PRs. But with most lifters, they're not coaches. And what they'll end up doing is they'll go to their meet, they'll be like, okay, cool, like, let's go. How hard could this be? And in concept, it's not that hard once you know what's going on, but there's a lot of time sensitive things happening with a powerlifting competition. And frankly, if you miss it, you can be SOL and waste your whole day. So find somebody who's done a few powerlifting meets. They know what the rhythm and the flow is for that day. Might even be worth getting in touch with a couple local coaches and just asking them, hey, what do you charge for handling on meet day? And that can be a good way to go if there's a local coach in your area that's worth their salt. So, top 4 things that you should know for prepping for meet day. Make sure that you've got a good plan in place, right? Don't open too heavy. One last thing that I'll add here is if you're interested in a copy of my meet day planner, this has everything you need to know from warm-ups to attempt selection, as well as being conservative and aggressive with that, on top of how to time out your warm-up attempts based on how the flight starts. You can let me know down in the comments below by commenting attempt, and I'll get a copy of that sent over your way. Thanks. Bye.